Welcome to the EquiRatings eventing podcast, and it is a horse trial support group special for you listeners. And we have two very, very lovely guests to talk to us this evening. I'm going to start by introducing none other than a lady who's been a stalwart of the British teams for a good number of years. Welcome to the show, Tina Cook, your first ever podcast.
I know. I've got to join the real world of all the youngsters.
We will convert you.
I'll be chattering away.
We'll do our best. We're looking forward to talking to you because obviously it's going to be a big year, 2020. But we are joined also on the show by Horse Trial Support Group member. She has ridden at the very top level herself. She is a former Horse Trial Support Group scholar, Sarah Kellard.
Hi there. Good evening. Good to be here.
Oh, we're really looking forward to this chat because we've been talking about it a little while. We have obviously been working with the Horse Trial Support Group for a good while as well. And we have our live show coming up at Badminton, which I'm hoping by the time this show goes out, listeners, will be sold out. If it's not sold out, then there's only a couple of tickets left. So if you're not coming to Badminton on the Thursday, then get your tickets now. Let's start by just talking about what the Horse Trial Support Group is, because we've talked about it on the show before. We'll talk about the funding and the difference it makes to the British team and everything like that throughout this episode. But just, Sarah, give us an overview of what the group does and what its aims are and how people can get involved with it.
Yeah, well, the Horse Trial Support Group was originally, they called it almost an eventing club. It was established back in 1978, and the idea was to aid and fund training and development of talented riders for all levels of the British event teams. And hence, I think, when we look back, Tina and I were both, quite a lot younger when we were given a donation towards our sort of training and what have you. And it's got several hundred members, and their main aim and their main reason for being part of it, part of the Horse Trial Support Group, is to, help support these British event riders and the teams that we send. So this year we're going to Tokyo, obviously, and that's going to be one of our biggest outlays ever. I think it's the most expensive games that we've had so far, getting horses out there. So we're trying to do as much fundraising as possible. And we've just done a press release today of actually donating some money, some of the members' donations, part of which is part of their membership. They make a donation through their membership to help send these riders over and do the best by us.
So that's incredible. So £20,000 has been pledged by the Horse Trial Support Group in a bid to help British riders on the sort of track to Tokyo, so to speak. Now, Tina, you're going to be one of the riders that is very much, we're going to talk about that in a little while, in contention this year. It's a big year. How much of a difference does that sort of money make to British team chances going into 2020?
Oh, my goodness. Any money that can help us gain some experience, extra lessons, extra help, whether it's through, teaching or physio. I've just been off and had some physio just now before coming and doing my podcast. That can help us get that little edge above the other nations. People have this illusion that everything gets paid for, but, the money has to be raised from somewhere. And the Horse Trial Support Group, who are some amazing people that have supported the sport for so many years. And you see their faces when they come to championships and waving their Union Jacks and being really part of a really great group of people that want Britain to do so well at a sport that we are particularly good at, but it is really competitive to keep your head above and winning those gold medals.
I mean, that's the aim, isn't it? The medals at the end of it, but there's a long journey to get to that point. If we rewind a few years, and I'm going to sort of test your memory a bit, can you remember when you were first a scholar, how old you were?
Sadly to say, I can't actually remember, but I think I was in my 20s, early 20s. And you know what? It's really special to be noticed. Yes, in the whole scheme of the sport, it's a small amount of money, but it goes a long way, and it helps you with your self-esteem, that you have been noticed and that people believe that you are a rider that's going to go on. And that availability, to be able to have that money, to be able to go and have extra lessons and just be thought of in that way is so important, because it's such a tough sport. We're having to run our horses as a business. We're reliant on amazing owners that support us, but we have to keep working and trying to find people to support us and help us. And so it's not just keeping ourselves on our A games, it's keeping the horses. And you have to go out there and earn some extra money, go and do some extra teaching. And so we have very full-on lives. And to have that support by people that are in the sport that believe in you actually takes a long way just from the psychology point of view.
It's quite remarkable as well. And actually, that has been something that's been intertwined throughout your career. So if you were to be selected to go to Tokyo this summer, it would be your 12th major championship for Team GB. I mean, that is a massive achievement.
Yeah, it's something that, yes, I'm very proud of, but it's something that I never, ever, ever take for granted. To be able to represent your country, ride and be sitting on that Union Jack and have it on your coat, and to say that you are representing Great Britain. I know it sounds all a bit soppy, but it's something at the beginning of every year for any horse's life or any horses in my yard. I look and go, I wonder if, can I train that horse to be a superstar for me? Because that's what really makes me tick. And the horses I have in my yard, that's how their career spanned out to maybe, I hope, be team horses. Look, not all of them make it, not all of them are good enough, but I always hope that in my yard and the owners have a very similar mentality to me, which is why they're with me and we work together. But that's what just ticks my box and gets me excited in the morning. And when we have to go out and ride in this awful weather and everything else all the time, it is looking for that goal of being able to represent your country. And as I said, once one championship's out of the way, it's back to basics and working up towards getting selected to the next championship.
I think that's really nice though, isn't it? Because the fact that the drive to represent your country and to still compete at that level for your country on a team actually does get you through let's be honest, with horses, this winter in particular has been a prime example that actually it can be a hard old slog at times. And so the fact that actually there's that big aim at the end that still gives you that huge amount of motivation is really quite special. And I think that's probably one of the things about our sport, that there's not many sports whereby you have that sort of team environment. And when you go to the Olympics as part of an eventing team, say for Team GB, Tina, would it be fair to say that ultimately the team medal is the first priority? And that's a rare thing in sport.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I'm very much a team player, always have been. I think it's so important to have a strong team around you of people that, you have the same goal. When it comes down to a team medal, everybody needs to put in their personal best. And to put in your personal best, you need to have the confidence of people around you, whether they're the people that are training you, the people that are looking after you medically, to the people that work for you, to your owners and to your parents and family. And if you have the security of those people behind you and your teammates, that you have the belief that they are absolutely trying their best to get the team medal, you will naturally put it in a personal best, and that's what wins medals. And all it takes is one bad egg to be selfish, and you don't feel that everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet, quite often upsets the apple cart. And, I've been so lucky to be in many teams, and very occasionally you get that. But more often than not, when we've had successful teams, it's because everybody is working together. And there is nothing more special than that. When, you're stood there on the podium as a team, you've all worked blooming hard to get there. Some of you have had a good day, some of you not so good. But in the end, you've got those medals around your neck. And that is just so special. And I love every minute of it.
I think we spoke to Ros Cantor recently on the show, and talking about obviously her world championship title that she won in Tryon a couple of years ago, and very much, she was going into the show jumping in individual silver medal position, but ultimately all that was going through her mind was that team gold that was on the line. And very much the individual medal is secondary to that. It doesn't make it any less special, but that is how eventing is, and that is part of what we love about it. Let's talk about the Olympics, because obviously 2020, it's a big part of the Horse Trial Support Group year. It's a big part of a lot of riders still looking for selection. Is there something special about an Olympics as opposed to a World Games, as opposed to a European Championships, that just gives it that extra little bit of edge that kind of makes you a little bit more hungry, that sets it apart?
Oh, yeah, massively. I had to wait for quite a long time to be able to go to Olympic Games. For whatever reasons, the horses either just went lame at the wrong time, and things just didn't go right. And I thought I got to the ripe old age of 30 and sort of thought, gosh, this really isn't going to happen for me. And actually keep plugging away, and until you've been to the Olympic Games as a competitor, it just becomes so nationally, worldwide known. That everybody that's at the Olympic Games of so many sports, you get the opportunity to meet all the other top athletes that are in their sport. And if you're a sporting person, which we all are, it's just fascinating to be able to meet. You're all staying in your Team GB house, so you might meet the cyclists, the boxers, the swimmers, everybody else, because let's face it, we all get very insular about what we do. So you can have a little chat in the lift, and you can be chatting to Joshua. I met him at the Olympics, and can be having a perfectly normal chat. Off you go. You're going about your daily business of training and, wanting to win, but you actually meet other athletes and see everybody's lives. And, that itself, even just you talk about, puts a smile on my face, because you join a whole new bubble just for those few weeks. And yes, you have to concentrate on the job you're doing there, but also there are memories that I will have from Hong Kong, from London, and from those games where I've met some equally amazing people that are the very best in what they do.
Do you think I was going to say, do you think it's an environment in which you thrive? But actually, I've answered my own question, because I was then going to say that 2 of your best ever finishing positions at 5-star have both come up at the Olympics. Your 2 Olympic Games, you've been inside the top 6 individually at both of them. You took the individual bronze in Hong Kong. You were 6th individually in London. And so it is obviously an environment that actually you really do enjoy as well.
Yeah, I do. And like I sort of said earlier, that actually representing my country and making that very much the plan for my horses. I luckily have very patient owners that understand that a lot of the day in, day out, a lot of the one-day events and stuff like that. Look, not taking it away that winning isn't exciting and amazing. Yes, it is. But I am a strong believer that horses need to have a goal, and you need to be able to be winning these gold medals. Your horses need to be on absolutely A1 condition, not necessarily have been ultra competitive the month before. What is right for that horse, rather than what's right for that rider in their head. Is it that day and that moment of winning, and make sure you've got them at their absolute peak when it comes to championship, because you can't get away from it. You've got to be on your spot on when you're at a world champion, any form of championship, and if you've got the form and you're in the running, that's what needs to be your central sort of aim, that the horse is in perfect form. So yeah, I have generally sort of everyone always seems surprised when I manage to win something, because
it's not by accident. It's on purpose. There's an aim behind it.
There is, and that's how I've always been. I personally don't think the horses can be absolutely in winning form every single minute of the season. You know what I mean? And I think, when you're having to prep the horses cross country and be so brave and take those chances when you're on a winning ride, I don't think you can repeat that any competition they go to. I think there are those special moments where those horses will give you everything, and you hope that you've done your part as a rider in training them, that at that point where they give you everything is at a championship, whether that's an Olympic Games or World Championships or whatever.
I think it comes back to that achieving a personal best for the team, doesn't it? And that all of those ingredients actually add together for that big result.
Yeah, completely. And that's where the team is, and the word, Pippa always said there's no I in team. The team is the important thing. And usually, if you have done your best, an individual result can fall from that. Look, sometimes in team situations, obviously, somebody has to go first. And in general, that isn't the greatest spot to go. That's not to say that people haven't won individual medals from being number one. But if you have been chosen as number one, you've been chosen that because you're a solid team player, and you'll do that. You'll get information back for the team, and that's where the team results and the team success is very much from all four members. Obviously, we're going to Tokyo with only 3, which adds another whole.
That's a whole different angle to it. Before we go on to Team of 3, because I actually am really looking forward to getting your views on that, because I think it's going to become even more of a mental game. Sarah, in terms of the Olympics, it is an opportunity for eventing to be in front of a mainstream audience. How important is it, do you think, for the future of our sport to flourish by taking advantage of that world stage?
Oh, totally. I think if we really need to work quite hard to keep the eventing as an Olympic sport. I know it's been under threat for a while now, and obviously these changes this year, it is going to be a completely different concept, and almost nearly, sadly, nearly could look upon it as nearly a different sport in a way. But that's the nature of the beast. That's where we're at to keep the sport as an Olympic sport. And I think we tried to run the format in Buccolo with a different scoring system and substituting in, and it was so complicated. Spencer Sturmey and I were doing the commentary for it and trying to do the final results and what have you, and people had, as I say, put horses in and taken horses out, and it was just so complicated. So hopefully they will have it off to a tee by the time it all happens this year.
I think it will help as well, because in Buccolo, the reserve riders, so to speak, also ran in the competition, which added a whole layer of complexity. Whereas in Tokyo, they will not take any part of the competition unless they're subbed in. So it will hopefully slim the scoring down a little bit, and our mental maths will get a bit of a break.
And as you said, as a mental game, I think for everybody concerned, whether it be team, the coaches, the trainers, the likes of Richard Waygood and making decisions, it's going to be tough on everybody. I think not only the riders. I think again we go back to what Tina was saying earlier on. It's the support group behind all of these riders as athletes. There is no I in team. There never has been, and I think the selectors will be not only looking at horse performance, but I think they're going to also need to be looking at an overall picture that will pull everybody. Everybody will be pulling in the same direction, and I think that's really important.
Tina, let's see what your thoughts are on teams of 3. What was your initial reaction when you found out that it would be going? Because you've ridden in, I think, London, they had a team of 5, didn't they? So it was sort of the other end of the spectrum. What was your first gut reaction to the kind of team of 3, how it's going to change the Olympic format?
My initial reaction was, what a complete disaster. I am not a fan at all. Unfortunately, we have to go with it. That's what has been decided. Because just the nature of eventing, I'm afraid, I think dressage and show jumping can accommodate it. But from an eventing point of view, with horses getting minor injuries, which mean that they can't complete, in my mind, it could be more detrimental to the sport rather than positive to the sport, because if the substitute is brought in early, when I've been to many a championship where you've had to travel abroad, it's a big deal flying the horses out there. A multitude of silly things can happen, which means that you're unable to compete, which is devastating for everybody. But it's going to be even more devastating for a whole nation if some unavoidable things happen, mean that you end up not having a team completion. And in my mind, I hate to sound all doom and gloom, you could have a lesser nation winning some serious medals just because they've had 3 complete when some of the stronger nations, for whatever reason, haven't been able to complete the competition. So it does worry me, if I'm being completely honest.
Do you think it's going to change selection in terms of, obviously they're going to need to take, and this is always a consideration, but they need to take horses that are proven to travel well. They're not going to take any unnecessary risks on that sort of front. But do you think there's going to be a real change in the sort of selection and the types of horses that are selected? Or do you think actually every year the selectors pick the best horses and it's not going to be any different from that perspective?
I think it will be different in the past because, as you said, we've had five in Hong Kong, in Beijing that year, and 5 in London. But you have got those 2 drop scores. So you can possibly, I haven't been a selector, but obviously I have to try and get into the selector's minds.
Don't we all?
Yeah, don't we all? You would probably take a punt on the combination that are real medal winners, but maybe aren't the most secure, but on a really good day, they could be a gold medalist. If you've got 3 or 4 others that are really solid, I don't personally think that you're going to be able to take that chance with only 3. I think you have, as you've said, got to take 3 solid, sound as you can. There's no such thing as the perfect sound horse, but horses that generally have got a very good reputation on soundness. And I know that there's been quite a few British horses that are going out to Lexington this year that possibly haven't flown in the past, which I think is a good call because we don't know how the horses are going to fly, how they cope with this until they have flown. Yes, that's got to be very important because you don't want to be using up your spare, your 4th member, just because a horse hasn't travelled well. That already puts you on the back foot before the competition has even started. So it's going to be incredibly tough. The toughest year I have ever been in the sport, from a selector's point of view, from a veterinary point of view, from all the support team are really going to earn their crust. I would say this time when the 3, it's going to be a huge amount of pressure also on the riders, and they have got to, we've got some fabulous riders in this country and some fabulous horses, but they have got to have riders that have absolutely proven on the top stage. Obviously, I'm blowing my own trumpet here, but
it's a good point.
But in all seriousness, it's all well and good having good one-day form, but they have got to choose riders that have been under pressure in a team cutthroat situation, because it's going to be more pressure than any of us would ever have experienced being down to 3.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because when you're a team of 3, I mean, even just as a viewer watching it, it is going to be unbelievably intense because every single round will matter. Everything will be on a knife edge. Mentally, in a team of 3, we've talked about, briefly the different roles that people hold within a team. If you go out as Pathfinder, if you're the anchorman, that sort of thing. Ultimately, every single one of those 3, sure, you're going out as Pathfinder maybe, but actually your score has to count. That's still going to just ramp up the pressure even more.
I mean,
I think that will make for a good sport, won't it?
It will make it for a good sport, and you will be absolutely on your knife edge watching it, because, again, going back to the competitor's point of view, there will be no hiding place for any error.
No.
You have absolutely got to be on your A game, so you're going to have to be there to be competitive, but equally safe, because one stupid move, like, everyone's human, you would not be able to afford, like you wouldn't do with any championship anyway, but this time it's going to be exposed to beyond, anything that anyone has been able to practice or prepare for. it will be more than that.
More than that, yeah.
So, I mean, it will be incredibly exciting, but you will need to be choosing some good brains in every aspect, you know, from the athlete of the horse and the athlete of the rider.
And in terms of your fourth man, so to speak, obviously you actually travelled to Rio and was sort of the travelling reserve, didn't actually get called up, but you knew once the competition started that you weren't going to be required. Whereas actually the fourth person in Tokyo could get the call up at any point, whether that's just before dressage, just before cross country. They could just go in and jump a show jumping round. And that's so unnatural in what we're used to. But that, again, adds a different level of complexity to the sort of mental attitude of that rider, because they're going to have to be very strong as well.
Yes, I have been reserve on 2 occasions, actually. And I have to say, it's a fairly hideous position to be in because it doesn't always bring out the best in your character. You know, I was reserve in Sydney in 2000 and reserve in Rio. And as much as you are there supporting your team, you equally wouldn't mind if somebody just had a little twisted ankle.
Yeah, nothing major.
Just free the competition. Nothing major, because they're all friends, you know, but you want your chance to compete, you know, because that's why you're there. And which is why I went to Rio when I had experienced the Sydney being reserved, because I don't want to leave any stone unturned. So I put myself, when I was selected as reserve, I know it's not a great position to be in, but if you're not in it, you can't win it, you know. No. And if you turned it down and gone, you know what, actually I'm going to stay at home, and an opportunity arose, you would never forget. Well, I wouldn't ever forgive myself for the rest of my career. So, yeah. So going back to this fourth person, and you quite rightly said, they have got to be there, still going through the motions, still going through the training, still imagining that you're getting the opportunity to compete. And as you quite rightly said, you could easily. So you have got to be mentally strong and know and act as though you are competing. So, like, if you are called up for the cross country, you have got to know every fence like the back of your hand, and in your mind, you're competing.
You are riding.
And if you don't, yes, but you've got to be. And I'm sure the team will involve the fourth person as very much part of the team, because, as you said, they could be just thrown in at any point. So, again, it's got to be somebody that is mentally strong and mentally capable of dealing with a situation if it's suddenly thrown at them.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? You have, Sarah, your plan, so to speak. You know, you would have very much what you go through before your dressage test, whatever. Now, I don't know how soon it is. Tina might know it as how soon before each phase that you could sub in. But we spoke actually on the podcast of Vittoria Panizzon. I think it was the World Games in 2014, where she had a problem in the dressage warm-up. Now, in theory, if that was to happen, do you then automatically just grab your sub and get them ready to go? Like, they've all trotted up for the competition, they can take part straight away, but that would actually be an entirely different preparation to how they would normally go about preparing for a major championship, for how they go about preparing for a one-day event, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think, as you're going back to what Tina keeps saying, is that, you know, whoever that reserve rider is that might have to step in at any last minute and be prepared, that's probably, they've got an incredibly hard task right from the start, from word go. You know, from the moment they trot up. You know, do I prepare myself in case I have to do a dressage test, whatever time, you know, any of the 3 riders might drop out and might have to go in. As you just said, I'm not sure quite when they can substitute, or you know, how late they can substitute in. And
yeah, I don't know either. I mean, if
be ready for cross country.
Yeah.
They have to. I haven't looked it up, if I'm honest, either. So, I mean, I think there has to be a certain time scale where because if a horse pulls a short and is unable to compete, that it's so lame, you can't expect somebody to be tacked up in 10 minutes to go into the test. I'm sure there must be a time scale, but
there must be a clause somewhere, mustn't there?
There must be somebody that is able to be open-minded, flexible, and deal with the situation rather than being so regimented. This is what I have to do.
This is what,
I can't possibly do a dressage test unless I've done this and this, and I've worn those pants or those socks, and I've brushed my hair like that. They will have to push that aside and get on with it. So, it will be a tough job. Look, it'll be incredibly exciting, but it will be tough on everyone involved.
I think it just, for me, personally, I very much think, do you know what? We've got team of 3. We embrace it now. It is what it is. And for an Olympic year, it is going to make it unbelievably exciting. It's going to make it extremely fast to follow. It's going to be, everybody's going to have to be on their A game, even keeping up with it, because it is all going to be very, very quick. But I cannot wait. Talking about it now gets me all giddy inside. I am very, very much looking forward to it. Let's talk a little bit about plans for 2020, Tina. We obviously know you would love to be on that plane to Tokyo. Billy the Red has been a stalwart of British teams over the last few years. He's been a real superstar. Things didn't quite go to plan at the Europeans last year with 20 penalties. Have you got a plan for the start of 2020 to lay down your challenge for team selection? Am I going to say the big B?
Yes, yeah, I'm going to take it. He will be going to badminton.
Brilliant.
He's been there twice before, not very well. He had that blip cross country when he has had an amazing cross country record. I still, to this day, don't know why he, for some reason, lost concentration and suddenly was surprised and did that, because he's not a horse that I have to drill cross country. I have to over school him cross country. He's been very on it. It's sport, and I can look back and go, if only you jumped that, because then I would have been up for an medal, and it wouldn't be a whole story starting off this year on a front foot, looking like one of the 30s, whereas I'm in the pack of 10, 12 very competitive combinations. And so I'm feeling, in my mind, I am needing a good performance to badminton to put me back on track in front of the select sides. He's owned very kindly by Elizabeth Murdoch, and she loves going to badminton. So that's very much where we're going for this thing, and my preparation would be like it would be for any badminton. And then we will know from badminton that I want to be competitive there, whether I've done enough or gone well enough to be in the selectors' minds for Tokyo.
He already has his Olympic qualification because he was 7th at badminton last year. I mean, his cross-country record that you mentioned, you can look through it and it is absolutely remarkable. There's a couple of blips, but to be honest, he is unbelievably solid in both of the jumping phases. I mean, again, in his jumping, to have that with 2 rounds of jumping in the Olympics is a big, big advantage as well. So I'm hopeful for you. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to put any more pressure on, because the British team talked about, we love piling pressure on this podcast. You're probably wise not to listen. In the British team, you say there 10 to 12 combinations. They're in an enviable position with having a massive variety of different combinations and different riders, different horses that they can actually consider for fighting for a place. That actually, though, probably makes everybody's job a lot harder. Do you think that, I mean, it obviously makes the selectors' jobs a lot harder, but as a rider, do you feel that actually you constantly have to sort of poke your head above the parapet as to be really, really at the forefront of their minds?
I think I've been in the game a long time now, that at this time of year, every year, you look through your list of people that are about, you're like, oh my goodness, this is so competitive, I'm going to really struggle. But actually, if you go out, do your job, keep your head down, train away, do the best that you can. So I will go to badminton to try and win it, to try and do the very best I can. Now, if I do a good job and I go well, then I will actually be there in front of the selectors' minds. But if I make a mistake and others go well, and it does depend. Yes, you've got to put in your personal best all the time at a major high exposure event like badminton. But then some of the others might have a good day and some of the others might have a bad day. But you can't control what other people do. you need to make sure that you do the best you can do. The one thing that you can't also control is the weather. And what badminton might throw up is something that is nowhere near what the conditions are going to be, which we know when they're not going to be anything like what it's going to be like in Tokyo. We're going to be galloping for much further, whereas Tokyo is going to be 8 minutes. Badminton is usually 11 and a half, 12 minutes. Badminton could come very soft, muddy, tough, long course, whereas Tokyo is going to be on good, firm ground. It's going to be hot out there. Well, it could be raining at badminton. So other than the selectors' point of view, them seeing riders under pressure and seeing how they cope, quite possibly you might get a very unusual result at badminton. And how we can't tell what weather's going to be like at the moment, but if it was next week, it couldn't be further from Tokyo.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if it was next week, it wouldn't be happening. I've got a photograph on my phone of the park at badminton over the back by between the two waters over the back, and that was a complete lake from all the way across on Saturday. So yes, but they have done a lot of work already. Most of the fences are out there. They've been quite hard at work.
Look, and I'm sure and they will do. They'll be doing their very, very best to put on the best ground. Look, if badminton doesn't happen for whatever reason, or you get a very false result, which has happened in the past when conditions are so incredibly tough on the horses, then it will be a more difficult job from the selectors, because they will have to sift through performances of horses that have flown to Lexington. Again, that's different, sort of slightly different kettle of fish out there. But pick out results from there, and then pick out bits and bobs and people's past performances and history from the years gone by. It might not lend itself to results at badminton. So, look, I break the year up into two sections. At the moment, I'm aiming for badminton, and that's where that's my goal, and I need to put in a good performance.
Well, we will be watching out for Billy the Red this spring. What will be his prep runs going to badminton? I presume he will have a couple of steady runs as opposed to run competitively in the build-up. Yeah,
no, I do very much do that with all my horses. Even the days of Minus Frolic, who did 2 Olympic Games and many championships. All my horses have a nice quiet start to the season. Again, you just can't predict what the conditions are going to be like, but actually. Billy, he is quite a bright, sharp little horse, and he doesn't need to go to his first competition and think this is all jolly exciting. So yes, we'll all be reasonably steady, Neddy, and he will go to Tweedledown, have a nice little run there next week. He'll be entered at Cirencester Park. He'll be entered at Thoresby. He'll be entered at Burnham Market. I would like to, in the ideal world, have 2 runs.
Okay.
I might have 3, depending on conditions. Again, you just have to be open-minded and flexible. Depends what the weather does. And his last one be, probably Burnham Mark, which is a few weeks before badminton. So that's what would be ideal. But, we just have to watch his space a little bit.
Let's just go back to the Horse Trials Support Group, Sarah, because we've talked about the funding. We've talked about sort of how important it is and kind of what it goes towards. But actually, it's a lot of money to pledge. £20,000 is a huge amount of money. And there's going to be a lot of different fundraising efforts this spring in order to help.
Yes, so there's a bunch of us silly people have decided that, including Richard Waygood, from what I can gather, actually Alice Fox-Pitt, I'm going to name a few, that are actually going to jump out of an aeroplane, tandem, on the end of April, and that is another fundraising skydive that all these proceeds will go to the riders at Tokyo to assist them to do their very best in Tokyo. So we're looking forward to it, but I know Tina and I have had a long conversation about
Richard Teeth.
We've already had a very funny conversation about both feeling we get vertigo when we go over. When I go over the Severn Bridge, and I think when Tina goes over the top of the on the M25, don't you, Tina? We had to laugh about that.
I know, I can't possibly drive on the outside lane, and it was something on my bucket list that I would love to do, and I was talking to Spencer about it, and he said, right, come on, and you can do that for fundraising. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then Dickie Wagon wasn't very happy about it, having too many of his potential Olympic riders to be doing it. So,
I have to admit,
it is something that I would love to do one day, but oh my goodness, it would take so much guts. I would be absolutely terrified. But you know, the riders do appreciate all the efforts that everyone goes to, and most of us will be doing something, you know, doing some course walks or anything that anyone wants to, you know, ask any advice or putting some money towards us going, because as you can fully imagine, it's an incredibly expensive game, and to be sending such a team out to a different sort of climate, the other side of the world, it costs a lot of money.
Figures been bandied about, haven't they, saying that it's going to take £35,000 per horse to get them out there.
Good grief. And that's 4 horses, because they'll obviously take the 4th horse as a reserve. So that's £140,000.
Something ridiculous about £3 for every kilo of kit.
That's absolutely
absolutely incredible. Something along those lines, yes. And so, which was quite interesting when we had our last horse trial support group meeting. You know, it made us realise, you know, how invaluable whatever we can raise will be,
really,
because obviously they have a certain amount of funding. But you know, if we can assist that, they can take more kit, or they can take better kit, or whatever, then all of those things, I think, you know, we need to raise as much money as we possibly can.
Well, there's lots of ways people can donate. So you can go and support the people jumping out of a plane in the skydive. You can just go to there's a Just Giving page set up for that, isn't there, Sarah, that people can go and donate directly to it?
Yes, exactly. And we've been trying to put as much as we can on social media, whereby everybody who is jumping has their own page, and it's been quite widely advertised, and we just hope that everybody will jump on board and come and they can come and watch us, come and see us jump. We're jumping 3 times in the last week of April, 3 different days. Sort of 6 people jump each day.
I was going to say, they're not going to make you jump out of the plane 3 times, Sarah. You're okay.
No.
You only have to do it once.
Exactly. But Spencer Sturmey has been absolutely, I mean, he has been fantastic setting this all up for us all, and encouraging people to come on board. And we've got it'll be fun as much as anything else as well, and exhilarating. So we're all looking forward to it, really, I think.
Let's talk about joining the Horse Trial Support Group. Now, for £250 a year, which sounds a lot of money, listeners, but let me just tell you what you get for £250 a year. So you will get admission to badminton, and that is for all occupants in a car. So you get your car pass and all occupants in that car, so up to 4 people. In fact, you can probably get 5 people in a car. Get a big car, you can fit 7 in. But they all get into badminton. You get access to the Horse Trial Support Group marquee throughout. And there's lunch and everything in the marquee. So that's just for badminton. And then you get 2 passes for Burghley as well. So if you normally go and buy your tickets to badminton, or you normally go and buy tickets to Burghley, actually joining the Horse Trial Support Group will get you better value for money. Is that right?
Much better. I mean, I think we said the percentage saving is something like 74% if you have a car full to go to badminton and 2 members' badges to go to Burghley. So yes, it's a 74% saving. We've done some sums and what have you, and actually Spencer, with his very clever mind, has actually managed to put all that together. So it is a huge saving, and not only for the tickets for Burghley and badminton, but we have a number of course walks at badminton, at Burghley, and during the course of the year we try and do yard visits, and that I know there is a plan afoot to try. Richard Wager is going to try and get the Olympic riders to take part in us being a little bit involved in what goes on. Obviously, we have to keep on the periphery, but he's going to be, you know, he appreciates what we're doing, and he's very much on our side to enable members to be involved in where and see where their money, where their donations are going. And I think that's really important for members.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is an incredible value for money, as we say, and it's all for a very, very good cause. It has been a pleasure to talk to you both. Tina, thank you for letting us pick your brains so candidly about the Olympics, because I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Listeners, I hope you have too.
No, it's a total pleasure, and I love talking about it because it just brings the memories back to me and makes you even hungrier for more.
Well, fingers crossed, Tokyo 2020 is going to be the year. Sarah, it's been a pleasure as well. Where can people go if they want to either donate or join the Horse Trial Support Group?
Our website, www.horsetrialsupportgroup.co.uk. Easy, and social media, just search for Horse Trial Support Group.
Easy peasy. Tina, Sarah, thank you so much. Listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this insight into the Horse Trial Support Group, but also into the Olympics. It's going to be a big year for British eventing. Cannot wait to see how it all unfolds, but that is all we've got time for. Thanks for listening. Get in touch with us at Eventing Podcast, and we'll be back very soon with another episode.